right. Hello, everyone. 안녕하세요. 잘 지내세요. It's good to be here. Bettina, Dani, Iana, it's also great to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about Web3, community, and culture. But before we get into that, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name's Yadira. I lead marketing at the Near Foundation. I've been with Near since January 2021. And before that, I was at Consensus, where I joined in January 2018. And before that, I was at Samsung, where I worked for 5 years, and where I also started to really look at blockchain more closely before I made the full jump into crypto. So, Bettina, please.
Thanks, Yadira. I'm Bettina. I organize a conference called EthCC. It happens normally in Paris every year. This year it's in Belgium, so if anyone wants to travel, awesome country, bit smaller. We host over 250 speakers and 6,000 attendees at EthCC, and this will be my 6th year running it. It's been a good time, and it's actually been my only gig in the Web3 ecosystem, so that's how I started my adventure in it, and still doing it today. Dani.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dani. I'm one of the investment partners at MetaWeb Ventures. I've been working in technology for a little over 17 years, so I'm probably the oldest one in this room, but hopefully excited to learn from all of you who will keep us young. I focus on investing in early stage Web3 startups. I've worked in infrastructure before, and I also sit on the board of ETH Denver and help organize that particular gathering every year, specifically focused on the curation of speakers and highlighting relevant content for the community. So very excited to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Iana, and I have actually a very different background. The first degree that I had, it was nursing, and I worked in the intensive care department for a while. Then I decided to switch career and do something fun. And I started got a degree in hospitality management. Thought it was fun, but it wasn't, because it is really hard work. And got introduced at the time Web3. And now I'm in Web3 for the last maybe 5 or 6 years already. And I love it. Web3 is not just 9 to 5. I think it's a lifestyle.
I couldn't agree more. You live, eat, and breathe crypto once you jump in the rabbit hole. So before we jump into some of our questions, let's start with defining what culture and community is. I mean, we think about it in a different perspective, and we think of culture, and you can really think about it from a geolocation perspective. Like here, the culture at Seoul, culture where I'm from in LA, culture versus New York. But when we take that into Web3, it's often driven by the communities. So I don't know who wants to start. Maybe we start with Iana first.
Sure. As I mentioned, I just said that Web3 is a lifestyle. So at Internet Computer, we are very passionate about decentralization and using a new internet on the Web3. As you can see, you can build anything on the top of it. So when you work in the field and you build a community, you want to inspire your community with your mission and vision. And it might start with one person, and you share your vision and mission. And then it can lead you to grow your network, and that's how you start building a community one by one, and inspire more and more people.
So I think if you're asking us to define culture, that's a big picture
in Web3.
question.
In Web3.
But you can talk about culture in Web3 before you start to define culture, right? And I think that it comes down to a set of values and principles and like perspectives on the world. And that is really unique in Web3. I think you have a series of people that come into it for different reasons. I've seen a lot of like the hardcore decentralizers who think that, you know, everything in the world should be decentralized, censorship resistant, permissionless. You have people like me who are deeply skeptical of institutions and governments. And that's why I'm here, because I think that blockchain technology can make the world a more equitable, democratic, and open place where, you know, we make commitments and we put them in the world and then they're fixed. And no one can come back and change their mind and say that was not the deal, because the smart contracts are showcasing this. And I think ultimately, like, the culture is formed by like a very eclectic mixture of people who feel very intensely and are committed to their beliefs. And I think that makes it for a very, very cool, very progressive space that you see here.
I couldn't agree more with you, Dani. I'd say maybe on top of Web3 culture, I'd also say it's a big mismatch of different types of communities, but that all come together for the exact set of values that you just mentioned, the desire to decentralize at least partly the world. Not all of us are complete maxis on that subject. And also having a very decentralized culture means being connected with people with whom you don't necessarily share a lot of everyday values because you don't live in the same country, you don't have the same local culture, but suddenly you are in contact with a lot of different people from everywhere around the world, and it's amazing to share some sets of values with them. So I'd add that in the community pack.
Yeah, adding to that, I mean, this is a very nomadic culture. We all work from home. I mean, if we do have office spaces, we go in every once in a while. And what really brings us together are these events. So Erica, being an organizer for years, really bringing people to Seoul. I don't know if it would have happened otherwise, right? And, you know, there's Korea Blockchain Week, but it's clear that you're bringing the builders and the developers. Same with ETH Denver.
And, you know, I think what's different is that a lot of these events that are happening, they bring a lot of foreigners to hang out with foreigners in exotic places.
Exactly.
It's true.
We're blessed.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about Erica and Billy Seoul is she brings the world from an external perspective into the local Seoul community and brings the two groups together, and that's very unique.
Absolutely. It's creating a bridge. And I love it when you wear your hanboks. They're so beautiful. Now, Bettina, you also have organized events for years. And as a co-founder of EthCC, you know, how would you describe how your event is different from all of the other events? And Dani, you've been to ETH Denver, and Iana, you've been to many events. What views do you have on the event landscape in crypto?
That's a very tough question, especially if there's other event organizers in the room, because I'm not sure I want to say what's so different and what's the secret recipe. But I believe that EthCC started very low-key. The conference was always built for the community and by the community, so maintaining ticket prices as cheap as possible enables people that are just curious to actually put a toe into the crypto community and the blockchain community without spending all their money or having to travel too far, because of course today the conference has grown, but we used to be very European centric, so Paris is spot in the middle. And I'd say that we also really try to focus on welcoming new speakers in the ecosystem as well. We've got our OGs that we've loved for many years and that we always welcome back to EthCC, but the idea about the conference with having 250 speakers was to really enable people who have something to say about a specific subject to jump on stage and to be able to let it out in front of the world. We live stream everything to have this content accessible to everyone in our global community. Wherever you are, you can see what happens at EthCC. And I'd say one of the things we keep maintaining, and it's not always easy even, and it gets worse in bull markets, is keeping it low-key. So we try to foster this ecosystem of builders, of people who can kind of trust each other when they enter the EthCC building. It's like, okay, we're all part of the same team here. We try to communicate, to collaborate, and keep that community alive and strong. I don't know. Have you felt? What do you feel is unique about EthCC?
So interesting that you ask, because I started in my career in the blockchain space on the developer relations side, and EthCC and ETH Berlin were my two favorite events that happened every year. And what I thought was really, really unique about EthCC that I talk to people about is that EthCC was the conference for people that don't go to conferences. And it was the most technical gathering in the entire ecosystem, perhaps even more so than the Ethereum Foundation's one, because you saw all the cryptographers, all the CTOs, all the technical founders, like every top protocol engineer would leave their house once a year for SCC. And that was phenomenal, right? For someone who was working in the developer space, I was like, yes, everyone is here. And it was not just developers that came out, it was the best developers in the world that came out for this. I remember the CTO of our org saying, oh my God, do you know who that is? That's the most famous cryptographer in the world. I'm like, we just had drinks. You want to meet him? I was like, and I met him at EthCC, hanging out in a courtyard. The first time I met Vitalik was also at SCC. He was standing in the middle of a garden with one of my friends. And I was like, oh, hey. And so I think that's an extraordinary gathering of people of such high caliber that it is really one of my absolute highlights each year to go. Although I don't appreciate the summer in Paris piece, I do have to say, the winter in Paris was better. Yeah. And then for this year, Brussels, yes. But other than that, it's really truly excellent.
Thanks. And I think one of the funny aspects is seeing how technical people are at how they present on stage. I love the fact that so many speakers at EthCC have stage fright, don't necessarily know how to present themselves in the most marketable way. I'm sure Amanda would have a lot of things to say about them. And that's actually great because it makes them accessible. It's not scary. If you've got someone who's a bit scared on stage, they come down, it's so much easier to have a discussion with them.
I also want to say thank you, Erica, for organizing such a wonderful journey here in Korea. This is my first time here. But since I represent ICP Hub Thailand, we're also focusing on different events there. For the last 6 to 7 months, we hosted about more than 20 different events, and our events focusing on a different crowd. We have a different partnerships with University in Bangkok, and we're teaching workshops how to build VR experiences on ICP blockchain. We probably already onboarded and educated more than 600 students who already deployed many different experiences on the internet computer. But besides education, we're also focusing on fun because Web3 is fun. So we want to show regular Web2 users how they can implement Web3 technology in their businesses. So we have educational workshop for them as well. And we're focusing on musician, NFT artists, because Thailand culture is quite many artists there as well. So we want to show that Web3 can be used in their regular life as well. We also focusing on different events such as boot camps, also in universities, teaching TypeScript 101 and TypeScript 202 on how to build an internet computer. We have actually upcoming several events that will be like ICP mini conference to showcase about startups that we onboarded globally, and as well as side events for Thailand Blockchain Week, Southeast Asia Week. So we know how hard it is to pull out such an amazing event like you did, Erica, and very appreciative for this opportunity.
This might be a good way to segue into trends. At these events, we see narrative trends emerge. Here at Middle Asia, it was very clear chain abstraction and AI were dominating the agenda. At ETH Denver, infrastructure was really back. EigenLayer was really the sweetheart of that event. Bettina, I don't know if there's anything you can give us as far as alpha of what to expect at EthCC, but I'd love to hear that. And also, Dani and Iana, what your views on the trends are for this year.
And so we do believe AI will still be dominating this summer. I know the ecosystem works really fast, but I'm maybe a bit praying at this time that what we believe is happening today with chain abstraction being a big trend and AI as well will still be there in July. But for the first time ever, we have thought of something very unique within EthCC. We have 12 different themes for the conference, so speakers need to apply to a specific theme to talk. And this year, we had the option of the surprise track, because every year we have speakers that tell us, but I'm working on this new thing, and the track doesn't exist. And we're like, but it's May, the conference is in July, this new thing just appeared, we couldn't know that. And so this year, surprise, no alpha here, but you'll see it at EthCC.
Mystical unicorn track.
We were thinking of doing like a weird things, weird talks stage, because they're actually sometimes the coolest ones, and you don't always know where to place them. And you're like, what if we just put all of them here? I'm like, yeah, I would stay there all day. I would listen.
It's like
weird talks track.
You're melting hodgepodge of weirdness, but still innovative and new.
We had someone a few years ago. She was the CTO and co-founder of like a DeFi derivatives platform. She brought all her engineers onto the stage in costumes, and they danced Baby Shark together.
I remember this. Yes.
It was great. I still don't understand derivatives.
Yeah, if you do have ideas of tracks and trends that we should be looking at, please, I'm wearing a blue t-shirt. Come see me.
So I believe that the trend is, of course, going to be AI, but also we will see more Web2 businesses using Web3 technology. For the upcoming, I don't know if you guys are aware that Internet Computer had more than 20 hubs globally. We want to connect and build community globally and scale it and decentralize. So each hub has their own agenda and events. We just had a hacker house here in Korea, the upcoming hacker house in Hong Kong coming up, I think April 6 to 9. We have CoinFest Asia in Vietnam, Thailand. It's all roadmap, and we're focusing, of course, on developers, focusing on education, and focusing to just connect with a local community. So each hub has their own events and planned. And of course, the bigger events, you can check on the website, internetcomputer.org, what events is happening and where is the Divinity Foundation participating. That will be a really good opportunity to connect there as well.
So let's dig into that a bit more, Iana, because I've definitely seen Web 2, Web 2.5 often discussed, and the global approach, think globally but go locally. I've seen that a bit. What are some of the challenges you're facing when you're trying to build these communities or this culture for ICP?
I love this question. The biggest challenge, I'm going to steal this from my friend, ICP Hub in Indonesia. He's not here, but the biggest challenge is not enough time. There's lots of things to do. Besides what we're not only focusing on events, we're also focusing on incubator and accelerator. We're also focusing on BD. We're also focusing on just connecting and inspire people. Lots of networking opportunities. So it's not enough time for one person. That's why the hubs have, on a way of decentralization, they also have co-founders. And these co-founders have a support from a local community. So, for example, for my personal hub, I started by myself. Now we have 4 co-founders. We educated students who wanted to become and do internship with us. So and onboard more users that way as well. So it's, I would say that decentralization. One of the challenge personally for me, because I'm from Thailand, I do need to have a support of local community with a translation, because unfortunately I know 2 words in the Thai language, and it just doesn't, really hard to learn a different language.
Totally understandable. Dani, your rich history with Infura, working with developers, then segueing into being a VC. What's some advice? I mean, let's start with more of the problem. What do you think the biggest challenge is when people are trying to grow their communities? And what are you seeing on the VC side and trying to give as far as advice?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge that you see is communities that have no heart and soul. They're artificial, right? So essentially, like, a lot of projects are zombies, and they have these grants programs, and they give money to people, and then they're surprised when people take the money and then disappear, and then nothing happens, right? And it just it like is I think it's like a double-ended problem. So one is like if you don't have substance and if you don't actually have good developer tooling, good developer experience, it's very difficult to get organic growth. And the second thing is, you can't buy love. That's just the reality. And so it's something, I think like love and friendships is something that you earn, and communities are built on human bonds. And so it has to be about joint ideals, joint passion, joint projects, joint goals, joint motivation. And if at the end of the day, if you don't have the substance, then that doesn't happen. And I think a lot of, one of the challenges we see in space is people try to force this because it's faster if you can just kind of steamroll over it and go very, very fast. You're like, look, we have a huge community with thousands of people on our mailing list. And it's like, okay, but would anyone come sit and have coffee with you? Would any of them sit down and dedicate their career to building? I was like, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, digging into that, I mean, vanity metrics, I see them left and right across the space, right? Like, just because you have the numbers doesn't mean that the engagement is there. So when people are looking at
applications that use blockchain, but the users don't know they're using blockchain. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm sure we have a lot of builders in the audience. When they're looking at their communities, what metrics do you think they should be looking at and really digging into?
So I think the main challenge, and I think, when I founded my startup, I had the same problem, which is that we come up with very great ideas on very cool problems that maybe don't exist yet. And then you build products for yourself. And sometimes that's cool and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Apple did say the best products were the ones you build for yourself. But, the caveat is that other people have to want them too. And so I think for me, my advice is always like search for a problem that exists that you have a great solution for, rather than building a great solution and then trying to find that problem. So
love that. Bettina, as you're coming up with all of the content for EthCC, bringing in speakers, thinking about the vibe that you want to create there, what are some of the challenges you face on your planning and, everything all around that?
I'd say keeping the noise out. Maybe one of the biggest challenge is there's too much easy money. And you were talking about vanity, you were talking about you need love, and soulless projects don't last. The thing is, it's very complex to always be monitoring who is coming in. Is it really good? Is there something that is useful for the rest of the community? Is it a team that's just trying to grab a lot of users and use their VC investment money to send some tokens to these users and then they're going to disappear? And I think that is our responsibility as community members or builders, is to ensure that people that do come in get to know the good projects and don't get lost. And I think that when you're building local communities as well, it's so much more complex, because when you don't have a reputation yet, of course, it's always a bit more complicated to target the great speakers or the best projects, because all of them are like, I don't have the time for you. But it is so important to actually work on those relations and try to get them in, because it's the only way that you can build long-lasting communities, if you've got that trust and that capacity to navigate through the noise.
Absolutely. When I look at communities, like especially in Web3, they're often loud, right? They have feedback, they voice their opinions, or even protocols, L1s, L2s, they make decisions based off of what their communities are seeing, and their strategies are informed by them, they're driven by them, which is amazing to see, because we don't see that in Web2 at all. We don't really see that really anywhere else outside of this organization. So, keeping that in mind, what are some Web3 ecosystems that you really admire, and why?
Oh, wow. Preaching for my own choir. I really like the Ethereum community. Wonder why? It's a tricky question, because funnily enough, I'm not a very community person. So I hide all year long, and then I pop out for EthCC, and then I hide again all year long. But I do believe that the very hardcore technical people that are a small, very low-key community within the Ethereum ecosystem are the funniest, the people I love hanging with the most, because it's sometimes a bit awkward. It's very often a lot of trolling. I remember my first ECC, I had no idea who was who, and then my two main stage speakers that were popping one after the other were having what appeared was a huge fight on Twitter, commenting each other and being like, no, this is shit, shut up, you have no idea. And I was like, whoo, this is not good. And then I just chatted with Jérôme, who started the EthCC conference, and I told Jérôme, I was like, oh my god, how are we going to solve this issue? We've got two speakers that are hating each other. And he was like, nah, they're best friends, they're just trolling each other. I was like, wow.
You wouldn't put them on stage and do a fireside chat?
We might do that. But that was a funny one. And we have a lot of these people that you need to find. They're kind of Pokemons because they're not that loud, but they are actually the best people to hang out with. For me.
And Dani and you guys, of course.
Same. Of course. I mean, I think for me, I was part of the teams that started the early Ethereum, DApp ecosystem back in the day at Consensus. And, obviously I'm a huge fan of like Near and the Near ecosystem as well. I love the concept of just like having blockchain be infrastructure and not be something that I have to think about as a person. It drives me crazy to think that like I need a different wallet for Bitcoin, a different wallet for Ethereum, a different wallet for Near, a different wallet for, my new meme coin. Just like, how does this work? Right. And so I like the concept of simplifying it for users. And I like the idea that nobody asks me, the user, what technology to use. Like Gmail doesn't ask me what kind of cryptography I would like to encrypt my email with. They just do it. And so I think that's kind of a direction of where we're headed. With that, I'm also a huge fan of actually the Berlin community that's formed. It's sort of like a bit of an agnostic crew of like decentralizers and privacy nuts. And I love them. They're fantastic. They're like really, really intense developers that care deeply about privacy. And they started something called the Department of Decentralization. And they do a series of, educational programs, hackathon offshoots. This year, they're really excited to host a hackathon with no sponsors. And they're so proud because they're saying, finally, we will not be polluted by corporate interests. We can do what we said to do. I love that energy. I think it's such a cool part of the space. And, I think if you're a hacker that's considering potentially going there, I think that's really an excellent opportunity. And they do a very cool thing. It's very difficult to get in. You have to apply. It's the only time a hackathon has like put me through a test of my blockchain knowledge. And I'm a pretty bad developer, Like I went through coding boot camp. I can build very basic things, and that's why I worked in DevRel, because I didn't like actually coding full time. And I had to go through this test, and I was like, man, this is like real. I had to pass this test to be able to then get a ticket as a hacker, years ago. And and beyond those, they're very picky about who they choose to make sure it's a very high level. But I really appreciate they always make spaces for female developers in their ticket allocation, and they do so very deliberately. And something that I thought was so cool about coming here to Seoul was that when I went to ETH Seoul last year, I remember noticing that the division of developers was pretty even between men and women. I was like, yeah, let's go.
I think I just understood why I got in that hackathon. They keep tickets for women. Now I get it, because it was actually the first hackathon I participated in. Thank you for reminding us of that community. They are the absolute best.
Youth Berlin is iconic. I love them. And they're such a good crew. Like they do things so differently from all of the other hackathons that we see. But that's the thing, right? Like
it's authentic.
Yeah, it's authentic. EthCC has its own vibe. Korea Biddle Week has its own vibe. It's wonderful. Iana, what
actually inspires several communities. One of them is Epic DAO. They're focusing on developers. They're based in Vietnam. And of course, Crypto Chicks, because they inspire women. And I think we need to have more women in space and who can support, even if they're starting from zero to hero. And of course, it will be wrong if I don't say internet computer. because I inspire internet computer community. I knew about that way long time ago before I started to be a part of it. You can ask any question on a developer forum or even on the X, and people come together and try to explain how to build things or how to use application, or they can answer anything. And even if I've been in a space for a while, and when I started, people are willing to help. It's a kind of different crowd there, and people are, if you want to build, you want to have friendship, communication. And it was very funny because when I started doing lots of posts on X, I actually met a person from Korea here, and he said, "Oh yeah, I follow you." And it was very cool to connect with a person in Korea who follows the same community. And he didn't know how I look. I didn't know how I look, but we had a great conversation on DMs. So I inspire that 3 communities for sure.
That's so crazy. We have a lot of like online friends, social media friends, and then you meet them in person and it's like, whoa, it's crazy. I'm finally connecting with you. So, getting into our last couple of questions, let's think about communities and like how they need to evolve, where they need to evolve, and what's going to take Web3 to the next level through our communities. I don't know who wants to answer that first.
Oh, can I start?
Go for it.
So, because I mentioned before that I believe Web 2 and Web 3 integration. So I think we really need to onboard for mass adoption regular users. So regular businesses need to start using Web 3, and new users start coming in and explore Web 3. And they will find it's very fun to be using Web 3, and they might not even want to come back to Web 2. One of the examples that recently happened, we did Web 2, Web 3 integration with a local business in Phuket, because I'm based in Phuket, Thailand. And one is that tourism started using Web 3 for NFT loyalty cards. So it was a very smooth integration. Another business in Thailand started using Web 3 for coffee. They're going to do NFT barista courses, and people won't even know that they're using Web 3. This is how cool it is. It is the same seamless as Web 2, but in a better way.
I mean, I think we need to build better use cases to give people a reason to want to be onboarded into Web 2. Into Web 3 from Web 2, yeah. Because people talk about that all year, like, oh, the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. But, like, there's no reason. People don't want to. What are they going to use? Like, the only use case so far has been, like, let's NFT everything. Okay, why? Right? And I think that ultimately, like, in the latest wave, we saw a lot of people buying, like, meme coins. And I started getting messages from friends asking, how to do it. And not that I think it's a good use case at all, but at least it provided motivation, right? Like some people were motivated to then figure out how to onboard. And so I think we need better versions of that. Cooler applications that do something that people want, that motivates them to want to learn to use this technology, because this technology does something that is unique.
And maybe just to add on top, I fully agree with you, Dani. Build something that's useful for the others, and to grow communities also. Sometimes I think we should stop with the Web3 arrogance. I do believe that there's responsibility in onboarding people. The first way generally people come in is through crypto. That means money. And I am very bored of hearing developers saying, ooh, they got scammed. Do you earn research? Like, not everyone wants to go to engineering school and to understand exactly what is happening behind the scenes. And if we want to onboard more people, we need less newspaper articles saying, oh, crypto is a scam. This is, every 2 years, they can just reprint an article from 2017 and then 2019. And then it starts over and over and over. And as long as part of the crypto community doesn't agree on trying to onboard and trying to explain and providing safety nets for new users who don't understand. I mean, I have onboarded so much friends on wallets, and I have so much friends who lost so much crypto I sent them at the beginning.
Sad. It's so sad and heartbreaking.
yeah, and
That's
arrogance.
a very good point about newbies. There's one founder, Griff, who's working on a new kind of wallet for newbies where it has Rails and it only has certain applications whitelisted. And if you want to use anything beyond what they have vetted and recommended, they make you like click on disclaimers and they make you watch a video.
Good idea. That's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah.
You need more of those elements, because otherwise we're forever going to be just a bunch of us being like, oh, we built something cool and new, but then we never grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this ecosystem, this industry, all ecosystems need to continue to grow and evolve if we want to see Web3 fully adopted. Well, Bettina, Dani, Iana, thank you for your time. So many wonderful insights and just industry learnings and highlights were learned today. And hopefully everyone walks away from something about building communities and culture. Thank you again, Erica. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting.